Hi, this is Steve Ingram from Stourbridge, West Midlands, and I play at Enville Golf Club in South Staffordshire, England. This is Golf Smarter number 971.
When you have the opportunity to be in control, you basically would look at the pros and say, how do they look like they're moving so fast, but it's effortless movement? And I think effortless movement is really the opportunity to understand, let's start with a program that works on the body from the ground up. Let's build balance first, and then let's create what I would call the body's awareness to fire muscles and use them properly versus them not working at all. It's about body awareness and muscle activation. That's a big part of what people should think about as they're maybe thinking about, after what we talked about today, well, where would I start on this? What would I do to create a plan for myself? And I think it starts out with asking yourself, do you ever even give yourself a balance evaluation? Can you stand on one leg for 10 seconds by itself? And then can you stand on the other leg for 10 seconds? And then challenge yourself to stand for 10 seconds with your eyes closed, which really creates more awareness. Like, oh my gosh, I can't even get there for 2 or 3 seconds.
Get more out of your body and your game in just 10 minutes a day with fitness expert Joey D.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Joey D.
Hello, Fred.
How are you, man?
I'm great. Another great day in Jupiter, Florida.
And when do you ever say, ooh, it's a rough day in Jupiter,
Many
Florida?
times over the last several weeks when all it does is monsoon rain, I say that a lot.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. But it's 365 days of golf every year.
It is. And you know what? In here, we actually did an indoor facility to make sure that because of Florida's weather conditions, we would have that box checked.
Oh, that's right. With these indoor simulators now, you can play any course in the world right up against your screen.
Yeah, it's pretty good. They've done a great job. Technology has finally gotten where I think it should have been for a while to create that reality for people.
And it's only getting better.
It is continuously getting better, and I'm optimistic and hopeful that we can not allow weather to restrict us in this part of golf.
Right. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. We're not going on the technology of indoor golf.
All right.
We're talking about the most important tool in your golf bag, and it's not even in your bag. You're the bag. The most important tool being your body.
Like that. I agree.
And we just, so often I hear instructors saying, yeah, the number one question I get when people come out to get a lesson is, I need more distance, right? Well, they try to switch clubs to get more distance. They try different balls to get more distance. They might even try some tweaks to their swing to get more distance. But really, you want more distance, you got to strengthen up, right?
I agree. The one thing that I think people will all agree on is the body actually moves the club. The club won't move until you put it in your hand. And I think that's the connection, that if people get that, if you become more efficient and aware of what your body's limitations and its strengths are, then you can start to hone those skills or develop the ability for feel to become real and then actually achieve that distance. If that is, in fact, the one thing people are always trying to get more of. I think, having been in golf for 27 years at the highest level, I'm grateful for this career, is accuracy can outshine distance day in and day out. And I've seen that with the best players who have never been the longest hitters, but have had massive success. And I want to send that message to every player at every level. Although distance is attractive and people love, hitting that long ball off the tee, sometimes that's not really, where everybody ends up. And I've seen it with great players with great results.
We actually had an episode years ago called Give Me 10 Feet Closer Over 10 Yards Farther Any Day of the Week.
I like that. I agree. I mean, that is something that when you think about accuracy and opportunity to score, the better you are at that part of the game, the more opportunity that will come your way. And I think that's great because it speaks volumes about distance is not always the key. So,
yeah. And then when people, the other thing they always ask golf instructors when they come in for a lesson, first, of course, is distance. And the other one is more consistency. And then you ask the person, well, tell me about your last 5 scores. Oh, well, I shot a 85, 86, 84, 85, 86. And they're like, you're very consistent. What's the problem, right? Just because, well, I have miss hits. Everybody has miss hits. That's key to golf. I mean, I guess the ultimate goal is fewer miss hits, not eliminate them. You can't. No one can.
Fred, one of the greatest things that I learned in my time with Vijay Singh, and we spent many, many, many years together, inseparable, but it was interesting to say that he would argue that your best misses are the opportunity to get your best results. So if you can control your miss and you managed it, you would have better opportunity to really understand the consistency of the game, right? Because you're going to miss in golf. That's a given, right? The best players in the world miss all the time. And people go, where did that come from, right? But if we're talking about managing awareness and knowing what your miss is, I think that's your opportunity to get the body to pay attention to what causes those misses. And it's not always swing related. It has to do with what the brain is telling the body to do. And does the body actually know that it's doing it, or does it think it knows? So reality in golf and the golf swing is a very different thing than the perception of reality, right? And I think many times some of the greatest instructors, Butch being my greatest mentor ever, would say to me, I think Butch reason people don't, Butch Harmon, yeah, he would, people don't want to go under the microscope or go on video many times because you think you're doing something. And the reality is when you swing like you do and you see it, you go, oh my gosh, I don't never look like that. But in reality, when you start to become aware of how can we lessen the things that are going wrong in about 1.5 seconds when it's from the start to finish, then I think awareness is key. And I think identifying those things and bringing the body into that equation, saying, I know what's going wrong. Now let me get the body to do its job so the club and the swing can get together and do their job.
And how do you do that?
Well, I think one of the great things, and I talk about this all the time, I think it's important for people to relate. When we all go for our annual physicals, right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully we're doing that, right? Preventative, opportunities today give us opportunity to have longer, healthier lives. But in the golf life, the life of your golf swing, your golf body, your golf game, we don't do that enough. And I think I watched it at the tour level and have been very grateful to be a part of the whole process. So week in and week out, we'd get there on a Monday, you'd go to the tour trucks, the techs, the guys that were amazing to support us, whichever club company you use, they would check the lofts and the lies and the frequencies and the shafts. And, they would check all of those things, right? But what we need to do on the body side is give ourselves an opportunity to evaluate what's going on with your ability to move the body in the way that it has to stop creating obstacles. And I think if people could dial into what I'm saying is give yourself, and whichever one you want to use, there's plenty of evaluations or self-evaluations you can use, but actually do that. Check in once a month to see, what does your internal and external rotation look like? Because if you can't get a club to move in the path that it's supposed to, that's when you start seeing these very common things like, raising the club instead of rotating and allowing the arm to move into the position to get to the backswing in the right sequence, right? And, do you have early extension versus good separation and X factor? What does that mean, right? Are your hips separating, or your lower body and upper body separating from one another to create those things that give you time and opportunity to square the club face at address? But if you don't know that you're creating early extension, or you're lifting your toes too soon and you're losing connection to the ground and balance isn't where you need it to be, now you're fighting gravity, you're fighting obstacles that don't even belong in your swing that are making it more complicated. Because you and I could argue it could be one of the most complicated swings in all the sports in 1.5 seconds. There's so much going on that if we can limit that and keep it simple, I think we have better results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But your function, your job is not focused on the golf swing, is it?
It is. Our job has evolved to work closer than ever before with the swing instructors and the players that take this game very serious or want to take it more serious. So when we understand what the instructor and the player are working on, now we have created a true team that says, hey, listen, this person can't rotate. They lack 30 degrees of rotation. How do we do that? That's a perfect example. Like if you think you're turning your back to the target, but you're only moving your torso, your upper body 20 degrees when it needs to move 45, well, you're not going to force it to get there because once it stops, the next thing you do is you lift instead of turn. But we think we're turning, but we only turn 20 degrees and then we lift. So those are things that I think through the evaluation process or assessments that give you an opportunity to check yourself to say, am I actually where I need to be with these metrics? No dissimilar than what TrackMan did as a tool for us in golf. The assessment process is an opportunity to really say to yourself, here's a perfect example. Now we actually have these tools where they're making these insoles in your golf shoes. It comes up on your cell phone to say, am I at 50-50 at address over the ball? Am I at 60-40 in my toes and heels? Where am I distributing weight? And how does that affect my golf swing? So we're getting more body feedback and awareness with tools that have become available. But think if we even go back a few steps and say, you can check your balance points without any of that technology because there are simple tests and assessments you could do. You can check your internal and external rotation without any technical devices, but you actually have to be willing to go through that process to ask yourself, where is my body as it relates to my swing?
So what we're going to be talking about with you specifically are things like that we kind of reiterate so often on this show are the flexibility, mobility, strength, stamina. That's your focus. That's primarily what you are called in for, is to help golfers with those functions in their body.
I think that's fair to say. I mean, we create these opportunities for people to do their evaluations so we can create individualism. Not every human body works the same. So if somebody is lacking mobility, right, that we can work on that specifically with all of the joints, right? If somebody's lacking flexibility, they have tight hamstrings, they have tight lats, they have flexibility is different than mobility, right? And then if somebody says, I swing it really slow, well, that's an issue that requires you to be aware of how you recruit velocity and speed. So we can work on that. And then the biggest thing that people should always be aware of in golf is where is your balance through the entire swing? Because when you swing out of balance, you're out of control. And we really, really do a better job more than ever now, giving people an opportunity to create the ability to swing in balance. And I think all of those things factor into a better controlled golf swing. And when you're in control, you can swing it faster, you can create more speed. You maintain all of the great things that give the body an opportunity to move that club efficiently.
Yeah, I think of all the issues that I have, which there are many, I think that balance, especially with my driver, balance is a big issue for me. There's been times where I would, just come out of my shoes and I'd just fall all over the place after my swing. And I'm doing everything I can to try to stay in balance. But boy, I would really like to be able to figure out how to stay centered. A friend that I play with told me, and he was volunteering at a recent PGA event, he said when these guys on the tour swing the club, their body does not move in the sense of swaying, falling, is like they're rock steady. And it's just all, their whole body is into every swing, but they stay on balance the whole time.
Yeah, they're in control. And really, the golf swing starts from the ground up, right? If you lose connection to the ground, you lose the opportunity to really control your golf swing. And what you said, many people will experience, they want to swing it faster. But what they don't understand is swinging it faster doesn't actually mean you're going to get a better result. Many times people top the ball, they miss the ball, they can't really swing efficiently because they're not in balance, right? And that affects the golf swing maybe more so than anything at a recreational level, right? People that are learning or aspiring to play the game better. If you are more aware of the things you can do to swing efficiently, I think that is one of the things that would get you more motivated to do the work on what I would call the body side of golf, right? And I think people need to have good information to create opportunity to make decisions on what's best for them as individuals. Because not everything works for every single person. But I think there is something in the work that has been created on our side of golf, and I would call it the biomechanics, the sports science side, the physical side, that helps people more so than ever today to have a better golf swing.
Can you help me to understand the difference between swinging faster and swinging harder?
Yeah, I sure can. So
because there's a huge difference, right?
There's a huge difference. Swinging faster is, we use the term velocity. Something has to move in a direction with the force going to the same direction. Sometimes swinging harder doesn't mean you're actually using those forces correctly. You're interrupting through different movements that don't match the directional force. So when you create force, you're working with the forces of gravity, right? Internally by the skeleton and externally by the muscles. And how does that affect your body, in a rotational movement? But if you're not moving, like you said, and you were describing the way the pros move, then you start moving with forces in different directions. So that implies that you have to work on understanding how to move directionally the right way with the right force in balance, which creates a really good result. You don't swing out of your shoes, or you don't, get your body to stall, and then you're because you're compensating in that moment, and you start doing other things like hands working too much or arms swinging too fast while the other parts of the body are slowing down. So that's a really good point you make. And I think if people would work on understanding the difference between the two, you have to move in a direction that the ball and the body needs to go simultaneously, and then you get a better result.
What do you feel is the greatest contributor to a faster swing? Is it
I think
muscle?
I think it's the ability for the brain, right, to send the signals to the body that you have to use these muscles, these body parts to get you to understand how to be in control. And I think that speaks volumes about understanding where you are in time and space, right? And I think people don't always know that. And they think when you have the opportunity to be in control, you basically would look at the pros and say, how do they look like they're moving so fast, but it's effortless movement, right?
Yeah.
And I think effortless movement is really the opportunity to understand, let's start with a program that works on the body from the ground up. Like, let's build balance first, and then let's create what I would call the body's awareness to fire muscles and use them properly versus them not working at all. It's about body awareness and muscle activation. And that's a big part of what people should think about as they're maybe thinking about, after what we talked about today, where would I start on this? What would I do to create, a plan for myself? And I think it starts out with asking yourself, do you ever even give yourself a balance evaluation, right? Can you stand on one leg for 10 seconds by itself? And then can you stand on the other leg for 10 seconds? And then challenge yourself to stand for 10 seconds with your eyes closed, which really creates more awareness. Like, oh my gosh, I can't even get there for 2 or 3 seconds. So balance awareness and distribution of balance, because that's a huge part. Golf starts off at a centered 50-50, and then it starts to transition as you move the club from takeaway towards its kind of journey to the backswing. And where does that weight distribution require your feet to be and your body to be while you're in that movement pattern? Are you 80% in your toes? And how do you know that? Because if you're swinging in your toes and you should be at the top of your backswing at 60 to 70% in your heel, Those are things people should be aware of. And there are ways to easily do that work to get there. So that's awareness number one. Number two, are you using the muscles in your calf, in your quads, in your glutes? And people kind of joke about those things, but these are big, strong muscles that the body has the ability to turn on or use as a tool to get your body to feel really strong and connected. But if you don't know you're using them, it's because you probably don't. So there's simple ways to do that, right? There's simple exercises to create activation of musculature in the body that supports the stability to create more balance and power and speed and control. But you have to do that for it to work. It's no different than people getting on a driving range and hitting balls. You have to do the reps with your body. And I tell people, you don't have to be in a gym to do it. You can do it in your home. Like, there are ways to do things to create all this activation without tons of tools, because I don't think everybody fits into that mold. Like, I'm going to go to the gym and get stronger for golf. Like, we've been fighting that for years. You don't have to, but you do have to have awareness of what to do and do it correctly.
And it doesn't mean just doing a couple stretches when you get to the golf course before you even walk up to the range. And then I can't believe how often I see this when I go up to the driving range. And mostly I'm at the driving range. I mean, I do go out to practice too, but mostly I'm an hour before my round begins. It's when I get to the driving range to hit balls and to focus on what I'm doing. But I see people, taking their golf club and stretching over their head and their back, and then they go twist, twist, twist. Okay, I'm ready to go. I'm like, really? You think that's going to be the most efficient way to get your body ready for your round of golf?
It's interesting because I think that's what has evolved. That's the acceptance that we have allowed to kind of sneak into the golf game and think we're creating a good result before we hit a ball. But what people don't understand is the golf swing can be very taxing on the body. And we should talk about this more, because people that are generally deconditioned, right, and have not paid a lot of attention to their body aging or their body not being able to support the movement and the swing, usually will end up with these small injuries that can become larger injuries. And I think you shedding light on the fact that you personally spend an hour is a really big message, because if you looked at what a tour player does, it starts hours before they get to the first tee. And that's the beauty of having been able for me to create programs and write books, to give people opportunities to check themselves on the reality of what you get out is what you put in. And if you go and you do the 30-second golf warm up before you start hitting balls in the range, that's pretty much the result you're going to get, which is not the one you want. And I think even if you gave yourself a full 10 minutes, like legitimately doing what you had to do before you got on the driving range, you would be amazed on the difference that you would feel in your driving range session if you even give yourself that much time, or before you ran to the first tee because you gave yourself no time. But it's a big difference if you did a 10-minute activation the proper way, right? You activated your balance, your brain hemispheres. You activated the ability to truly understand, how am I rotating? You activated the shoulders to make sure there's internal and external rotation. You activated, the torso and what has to happen when you need velocity and your hips need to rotate in sequence with your upper body. 10 minutes is not a lot to ask, but the result could be amazing.
So I started playing golf when I was in my early 40s. I was introduced to it by my son, who was at camp, and became obsessed from that point on. And I played sports as a kid growing up, and, did some things along the way, and always tried to be in decent shape, but I wasn't working out. I wasn't, doing anything. I'll swim. It's my workout, right? Go for long walks. That's my workout. But since I started playing golf, I've been more obsessed with my conditioning than any other time in my life. And even now, I try my hardest. I'm at least 5 days a week, I'm doing some, a little bit of weight resistance, flexibility, mobility, yoga. I do that regularly for 45 minutes to an hour each morning. And I'm grateful that I'm doing it. But, I've been working with this one app that I found years ago through the podcast called Dynamic Golfers, which is like a 15 to 18 minute random stretching, things. They've set it up as dynamic golfers, but it's mainly the workouts are dynamic athletes type of thing. And I get questions a lot. It's like, where can I find information that's going to help me get to a better place for my body so that I am more flexible, that I do have more ability, that I can be balanced and stable? And that's why I was excited when you kind of came across my desktop here, because of what you've been doing, who you've been working with, and what you've been developing.
I like that you're doing the dynamic program, because the difference for people is sometimes they're like, what does that actually mean? So when you think about the words dynamic and static, first thing I want to tell people all the time is we found that static stretches are less effective than dynamic movement. And to simplify all that, if you say my hamstrings are tight, which affect your low back essentially, right? And that's a big part of what happens to golfers. They have tight hamstrings, which affect their low back. And that's a common theme for people.
Especially at
you
my
bend
age.
down and you try to touch your toes and your fingertips get to your knees or just your shins, right? And you hold it for a few seconds, that's static. But if you actually stood like you had two ski poles in your hand and you swung your leg like a pendulum, or you swung it forward and backward, the hamstring elongates and lengthens sort of like a ballerina. When you see ballerinas, the reason they're so efficient and they're so flexible and they have so much mobility is they work through dynamic movement. So that means continuous movement or something moving in either one direction or multiple directions to create length or ability to free up something that concentrically should be tight, that should be something that gets concentrically tight versus eccentrically longer. So give yourself an opportunity to not just stretch statically, right? Dynamic, like you said, movement is a huge part of success for people that want better mobility, better movement, essentially. So what I like is there's so much information out there in the world today, which I think we're grateful for, but which one is best for you? And I think what you have to ask yourself is, first and foremost, what are you looking for and how do you apply that? And does it work for you? You found dynamic, the dynamic app and what you've been working on. But, I think that people generally get confused in the search for what works. And I think what you should first ask yourself is write a list of things that you're looking to accomplish. And in that, when you get on a search, what are you feeling that search engine and that result does for you when you can actually apply that to yourself? And I think one thing I love about where we're going with our app is the one we're rebuilding and actually be ready in December, is it will give people the opportunity in real time to work alongside of us with actual golf specific modalities. And what I mean by that is starting from everything we've talked about to this point, like how do I get my body to be aware of what do I need balance wise to be able to swing as long and as hard as I can in balance efficiently? And then how do I get all the muscles to activate without killing myself in a 30 or 40 minute hour workout in the gym? I want to create good activation. How do I get better joint mobility? So we've done things very specifically that we created that were born on tour. And we actually created a simple system that works for people in every single, facet of the golf body.
Yeah, you mentioned, does it work for me? You want to ask that question, does it work for me? But I think that especially with this audience, we're all kind of obsessed here. Does it work for golf? Will it help me in my golf game? And what's interesting is this dynamic program that I've been doing this single stretch movement that you just suggested about, holding the sticks and then rotating, moving your leg back and forth.
Yeah.
I've never done that on this program, and I've been doing it for a couple of years. They've never had me do that.
Yeah, I think people
and
will.
I think hamstrings are an issue for me because I walk the course, always walk the course as often as I can. And as I'm aging, I'm starting to feel like, okay, my left leg behind the knee here, I'm starting to feel a little ibuprofen is going to help out for the rest of the round. But I think that it's a hamstring, and I've always had a hamstring issue. Yeah.
I think many people, if you gave them a survey to say, what are the things that bother me the most and I struggle with that prevent me from being very efficient? And then how do I feel before I play? How am I feeling at 9 holes? How am I feeling? Can I get through 18 holes? Is my body starting to do things that really are hindering me to enjoy the game? And I think another big thing that I touch on all the time is, having the awareness of giving your body the proper hydration is a huge, huge key and a factor, because golf is traditionally, played over maybe these days 5 to 6 hours. I think it's been the big problem with people wanting to play golf, and consistently getting enough rounds in, because it takes longer and longer. Yeah. I think people have been starting to become more aware of how do we put people on the clock, and instead of that becoming something that annoys people, we should always be more aware of in that process of those amount of hours, what are we doing during the course of that round to maintain, our body's ability to move efficiently. So the information that you're going to acquire, make sure that whatever app you use, like you said, it applies and works for you, because not everything does. And I'll give you an example. I've had many, many people come in here and say, tried yoga, but I just can't get through it. And I think yoga is amazing, but yoga is a process. Like, you can't get through 26 poses in one vinyasa if you can't move the way they need you to move. Your body has limitations, but as we slowly see ourselves working to increase and improve the ability to get our bodies to move efficiently, well, then I think we're doing the right thing. So I would say to people, make a list of what you need. And does that information that you're searching for apply to you, and does it work, right? If it doesn't, then you don't want to force something. Find something that does work and give you an opportunity for those exercises or those stretches or those mobility movements to work into your golf swing, and know it's working because you start to see and feel the result, right? The body is a great barometer of what is or isn't working. You don't want to push yourself, because simple stretches can create injuries, and people we've seen that before in my world. Like, if you overstretch or you do things that you think are helpful, you end up getting injured. And I think, like you're saying, your hamstring has always been somewhat of a little bit of a hindrance for you. How do you address it? And it could be as simple as changing what you're doing to what I was suggesting versus you reaching down, trying to touch your toes statically. So those are simple little things that I think make huge, impactful differences.
When you say make a list of what you want to do, how do we know that that's what we want to do? I mean, you make a list of things, but are you really aware, without coaching, without getting the help or the assessment from a professional, do we really know what we want to do?
I think the answer is no, you don't. But I think in the question lies the answer. So if you are serious enough about wanting to make improvements in your golf game, you have to go all the way back to where you and I started, was, the greatest, club in the bag, which isn't even a club or the tool, is the body. And I think if you can ask yourself honestly, how is my body prepared, or is it not prepared to play the game I want? And if you can really be honest with yourself, that's the greatest starting point. Ask yourself the first question. Is my body capable of doing what I want to do? Can I swing as fast as I want in control? Or do I swing, like you said, out of my shoes? Do I lose my balance and I find myself not being able to finish my swing without stepping forward or backward, or, feeling like I'm on a surface, like a an earthquake, like things are moving underneath me that shouldn't. You know, am I in control of finishing my swing properly? Right. And I think that's the first question. Do I get fatigued? Do I feel tightness in my back straight away or my hamstrings? Ask yourself, what are the things that you are aware of? And then write that down. Then from there, what do you want to work on? Well, I feel like I don't have any flexibility. Well, then let's address flexibility. And then I feel like mobility is a problem because I can't get my arms or my body in the position that it needs to be. So I know that I'm doing things that I shouldn't. And understand the difference between mobility and flexibility, because it's a pretty big difference, but they both matter. Are you strong enough to maintain, a round of 18 holes? Do you need to increase your endurance? And do you have to get stronger? Do you even know if your muscles are working properly or not? Those are great questions. And when you can start to do the assessments, which some are as easy as 6 and some are greater, some take 30 minutes, and everybody has the opportunity to say, I don't want to do something that takes 30 minutes, but I wouldn't mind taking 10 minutes or so to figure out, do I move properly? And how do I know, what that means, right? And I think you can check the list for yourself as a player at any level to know, yes, I can start to swing in balance. Now I know how to do that. These 3 simple exercises are going to help me get better balance. I know that my quads and my glutes and my lower body from my waist down, those muscles aren't supporting my swing because I can't even feel them. So can I create muscle activation and awareness? Yes. And then I think, can you understand how to get your back to turn to the target completely? Can you rotate your torso properly? Can you get your arms to move with the proper measurements within a certain amount of, everybody moves a little different. Some are more flexible, others are not. Some have more joint mobility, others don't. But within a certain number that you need to be at, those are all important, pieces of information, just no different than what a TrackMan would do, which quantifies all the results. And I think if people just do a little bit of research, you can find something that works efficiently for you. And that's what I would strongly suggest. That's what we do here at Joey D Golf and Hit It Great. We put everybody through an assessment and evaluation as an individual and find out what works. We start slow. Less is more. You don't need, 20 things to start to get better, but you can use 2 or 3 to become more efficient in each part of what we're talking about.
Are you saying that we could just start with 10 minutes a day? If you do 10 minutes a day, and try to be consistent with it, I can see it's like, oh, you know what? I need a little bit more time. I need more time, but 10 minutes a day can be a great start.
I just did a piece recently that said, if you give me 10 minutes and you commit to 3 times a week, I guarantee you will feel things that you never felt before. And I think people's hesitation is nothing can happen in 10 minutes. But if you truly gave me 10 minutes, I would give you an opportunity to feel things and have results you didn't even know were possible. And I say that and I stand by that after 27 years of doing it at the highest level. We don't say things we don't mean, and we don't do things that don't work. And I think for people, gaining people's trust is an opportunity to say, I gave you my time and my trust. I'm gonna hope that where I'm putting all of those things will give me a result that works. And I know that for a fact. We've had thousands and thousands of people that have come through this academy and this system that have either lost hope or feel like there's no hope for them, leaving here with the greatest sense of change and awareness. And you can't change overnight, but you can change one movement at a time. And I think you're right. 10 minutes, you can do things you didn't know that would create a massive difference in your golf body and your golf swing.
Wow. Well, listen, in reading your website, I found it fascinating. And that's hititgreat.com, right?
Yes, hititgreat.com.
Yeah, so people should definitely check it out, hititgreat.com. But in reviewing it, you talk about the thousands of people that have been through. You have a list of names on there that in the golf world alone, but maybe even beyond that, it's the one name identity on these people that is like, whoa, these are big names. When you just like DJ, we know who you're talking about. Keegan, Brooks, VJ, Ricky. Those are all people who've been through your program. And all I have to say, Ricky, I mean, we're not talking Ricardo here. We all know who Ricky is, right? It's amazing. Or Henderson. But everyone can know those names, and those are the people that you've been working with for years, right?
Yeah, one of the things that I think I don't like to talk about a lot, but given the opportunity, and I mean this because what happens to people, and I found this to be true, and I think you would agree with me, Fred, everybody wants to feel like in the moment that they're working with you, they are as important. And I do agree with that. But those names, those players knew the importance of what they had to do for their careers. And when I think about that, people all have the opportunity to ask themselves, what do you want to get out of it? And those players put the work in and had decorated phenomenal careers. And I was a part of that, at a level that was very hands-on. And I still have the most amount of gratitude today for the trust they put in me and the teamwork that did help them, because ultimately you have to have hands off and they go out and they're the only ones. And you have to honor that. Like, you can only give so much to them, and the rest they have to take out and apply to themselves in the game. And I think when I walk through this facility many, many years later, I still look up at the banners that hang on the walls, and I am still impressed with the work that these players were willing to do to get those banners to hang. And that was basically the book, Hang the Banner. That was our newest book that I love, because it's kind of gives you the most modern approach to the science of the swing, how to do it. There's some anatomy in there, but there's a lot of anecdotal in there as well. There's a lot of stories from the pros themselves speaking factually, which I think brings people right into the world that I've been in. And we love the book because it really does do what we wanted it to do, is give people a peek into the journey of the greatest players, but what they could do just the same. So Hang the Banner is one of my, I'm most proud of that body of work and all the people that participated to make it happen. And I think what you're saying, it does really still resonate with me today, that I walk through there and go, man, there's a lot of banners on that wall. It's a lot of history. And I'm grateful for every second of them. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. And it's not your only book.
No, Fix Your Body, Fix Your Swing was our flagship. It started, the whole process of asking yourself, do you want to hold on to that information, at this kind of private world that only deals with the best players in the world? You want to offer it up to people who want to consume it, people read, maybe just as much as they did ever before. But I think what matters is the information you're giving was actually, taken from tour level professionals of the system at the highest level, but it was given and written for people to understand, consume, and apply at any level. And that's the beauty of, I think, the books that we've done, is it gives people a system that if you do this, then you do that to get this result. And to validate that, I think I always found out through my greatest mentors and people that I wanted to learn from, go to the people that have done something really amazing and ask yourself, do those things apply to me as an individual, or don't they? Take what you want from something you believe in, that you've invested time in, and what doesn't work, leave that out and apply to you as an individual what works and how can you create a result. I think we did that well, not only in the books that I've done, but the ebooks, which constantly come out every month with a new topic. And people should go to our website and dive into these free ebooks, because there's 27 years of information in these ebooks that are free, that are easy reads. They're not, novels, but they are very on point to certain topics that people are always asking. And that's another thing that I would love, your listeners to say, here's some free information that is taken from the tour and born there, and then created a system that is easy to understand and apply. And I love that about the ebooks that we've done and continue to do. So please give yourself an opportunity to take a little bit of time as you're doing all your research and before you make your choices. Dial into our system. It's pretty good. And I think it offers a lot of simplicity with a lot of result.
So you've got a couple books. You've got the 2 books, or is there more than 2 books? Because we only mentioned 2.
Yeah,
Hang the
there's 2
banner
out
and fix
right
your
now.
body, fix your swinging.
The third is coming out, but I think we're only going to do it in ebook form because what I'm realizing is you reach more people through the ability of technology, and the book business has shrunk. So it's called From the Teens to the Tour, and it's coming out soon. And it's basically a blueprint on the opportunity for teens and parents, which are very heavily involved in the junior part of golf, because they're still making decisions for their children that are minors. It is a very on point, factual amount of information that parents and young players can start to apply, because what we need to bring is awareness. We don't want these kids to get hurt. We don't want to stunt their growth. We don't want to confuse them, because in the developmental process, you can only process so many thoughts before they become counterproductive. So the Teens of the Tour is a roadmap, so to speak, on how to get the right information and how do you apply it, and ultimately, how does it affect you, the body, and the game in a time of life where kids are growing and developing.
And hopefully you don't want to get them to burn out.
No,
You don't
that's
want
the
to.
biggest thing. Burnout.
Yeah, I mean, because when you see young kids and then the parents are on top of them the whole time,
Yeah.
that's a formula for disaster. To
It lives
get
in
the
there
kid.
too. That part of it is addressed. So
Yeah,
that one's
absolutely.
coming out, and
Great.
we constantly do ebooks every few weeks to month and a half. They're always out there. They're always available on hititgreat.com, Joey D Golf. And I'm always proud of the opportunity that the career I've had working with the greatest players has given me the opportunity to create a system, with my peers and the people that have been behind me, to help this process and bring it to the world. So the app is something we're really excited about, that will launch itself sometime in December. And what I realize is not everybody can get to Jupiter, Florida, and not everybody's going to be able to buy a book. But I think the app world has given us an opportunity to reach people in places that we could never reach, and give them something that is not only affordable, but there's information that they actually apply and use to get themselves feeling better as a human being. And I say, it's not always about golf, Fred. It's about you move better, you feel better, you live better, and then ultimately you're going to play better. But we got to remember, before we become sports specific, you need to be species specific. And as a human being, what I can tell people is sometimes to be better at golf, you got to ride a bicycle, you got to swim in a pool, you can use other sports that create a swing like tennis or pickleball that's picked up all over the world, or do things that give you opportunity to get the body to challenge itself in different arenas, because you'll ultimately be a better golfer. And the app is going to be such a great tool, because when it's finished, it will cover and check every box. It will give you the ability to do assessments. It'll give you the opportunity to dive into so many different aspects of what people are looking for. It's covered everything, and it's an amazing body of work that we're proud of. And I look forward to people really giving themselves an opportunity to explore it. You don't have to buy it, you don't have to download it, but through the opportunity for exploration, you explore things and you make decisions and choices. And we respect people generally and want to know that we can build their trust first and foremost and give them a result that they want. And the app is going to be something we're ultimately the most proud of.
So we're talking about December of 2024 is when the app is scheduled to be released.
We're on track right now to deliver it somewhere mid to late December.
So let's talk about the app and what we as consumers and students will learn and gather from using the app on a regular basis.
I think the biggest thing you're going to learn in the app is, first and foremost, people are like, we talked about this, what do I do? Where do I start? So through the process of the evaluation that you'll get in the app, it'll give you real-time ability to work through your goals. So you're going to start at this point. If you've done these things in the assessment process, you start here. And it directs you very clearly and on point of where you should be in multiple levels. It doesn't restrict. We're not including like the best players and not including people that have never done it before. We've addressed everybody at every level, and there's something in it for everyone. And it gives you specific programs. So if you're already at a high level, you can dial into what's available at like the pro level. And if you're as a beginner, it gives you opportunity to understand, how do I start? How do I start to feel when I need my body to be specific to golf? And in there, there's calendars, and it checks your workouts, and it'll track them, and it gives you, amazing amounts of tutorial and coach's corner where you sit right inside like you and I are doing, and you're literally talking to the best coaches in the world that are on the swing side with us on the body side, coming together to create that opportunity for people to really start building the trust in why this app works. And we're grateful for that, because I have access, and some of my greatest friends and associates through the world of professional golf have dove into this app, and we have the greatest, a semblance of coaches that have come together to go, we need to merge the world of swing and the physical part of golf to give people the ability to have the best result. This app checks every box. And even in it, you get to hang your own banner. So, if you've done a great job, you get a digital banner, and there's so many really fun things in there to do. I love the ability for an app to create a metric, and this is where I started, this is where I should be, and this is where I want to end up. And it does all of those things, and it does it in a concise way that isn't confusing, and it gives you the ability to scale from where you start to where you want to go.
So if I wanted to do a 15, 20-minute workout, but I want someone to guide me through it, are there video workouts that I can do on a daily basis?
It's all in there. It's all done in that world where you're working side by side with your coach, and you're actually on real time. And that's really I think when I watch things, you look at a book and there's a page and you go, yeah, I see him doing that, but I don't know that I know how to do that. Well, the part that we did really well was we brought you into a world where we really are working with you one-on-one. And that's the beauty of it, because you're watching these things and we're going through the movements. And I always say that, people are visual learners more so than literal learners, right? Like the written word sometimes is harder to understand, apply than the visual world, because there's a great difference when you can see it and you're doing it alongside with the creators and the people that have done it at a very high level that are efficient. And I think efficiency is key. Application is key, right? Can I do it efficiently? Does it work for me? And then can I apply it when I'm actually working on my golf swing?
Well, it's hititgreat.com. Is that also the name of the app? Hit It Great?
It is.
Awesome.
Hit It Great.
And we'll be looking for it. It's available for iOS or Android?
Yes, both. It'll be available on both platforms.
Great. And are there fees associated with it?
The fees are currently $19.99 a month. So, you break that down, and it's $5 a week, something that you're willing to spend. We know that in the app world, there can be things that are as easy as what some of the kids download in these games for $1.99, or there are things that are much more expensive. I don't know, but we try to find a price point that right now that we're working on that averages it's $19.99. It's under $20, and it's about $5 a week. So we thought we wanted to appeal to everybody in the world and not exclude anyone. Like, golf can be expensive to just play it. When you think about what's the average cost to go play around a golf, we kind of thought about that. And then we thought about what's the average cost of a lesson, or, what's the average cost of information. And we felt like it was something that we had to do to maintain the integrity of the app, right? Because there are costs, but you want to be fair to people, when you're asking them to spend their money. And we tried to be mindful of that as well.
So if I download the app, do I need to pay to download the app? Is there any free element to it that I can just kind of explore it and get a sense of it? Or is it...
You get the opportunity to explore it when you go. They don't restrict the exploration, but to actually use it, you have to download it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the one thing is, I know there's a lot of free stuff out there. Yeah. But we felt what was important was to give people enough information to go through it, see what they were going to get, give them enough information to make a decision. And then if you want to buy it, we would love to have you. And, that does require you to make a purchase. So we don't want to be dishonest with people. So yes, that question is, you have to buy it. But the good thing is, before you do it, you have plenty of opportunity to explore it without having to download anything.
Well, I wish you a lot of luck with this. Clearly, you've had a lot of luck in the business you've been doing already, and it sounds amazing, and you've been really helpful today. I so appreciate your time.
Yeah, Fred, thank you for having me. I appreciate everybody in your audience giving me the opportunity to come spend some time with you and your listeners. So thank you, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did.
I sure did. This Friday on Golf Smarter Mulligans, we'll get our second conversation with Bob Foreman. It's totally random and a pure coincidence that we're getting multiple episodes from fitness experts right now. But listen, if you want consistency and greater length off the tee and all your other clubs, then you really have to start with your body. Now, if you remember, I had to take a break from playing for about 6 months at the end of last year and the beginning of this one because of issues with my neck and arm. And I wish I would have heard this episode then to keep my frustration in check. Well, this Friday's episode is called Dealing with and Overcoming Golf Injuries with Bob Foreman.
Many of us are walking around with an imbalance in our forearms. We tend to be stronger on the underside of our forearms because we're gripping things all day. So the muscles on the underside tend to be stronger than the muscles on the top part of our forearm, the extensors, which are responsible for kind of spreading out our fingers.
Okay, when you say top part of the forearm, you mean the side of the back of your hand?
The back of, yes.
Okay.
And so because we have that imbalance, with the flexors being stronger than the extensors, that can lead to issues in the wrist, elbow, and even shoulder. Carpal tunnel. A lot of people have carpal tunnel because of that imbalance. And again, it's something that a lot of people just don't realize that they have. It just develops. Again, we're gripping doorknobs, we're gripping chairs, we're gripping, and we really don't do anything to balance out that strength by providing a resistance to the extensors. I mean, how many times do you have a resistance when you are going from a closed fist to an open finger position? Hardly ever. So you don't really get a chance to work those extensor muscles as much.
Originally from December 2012, episode 360 has even more insights that I know you're going to find interesting. I want to thank this week's Golf Smarter ambassador, Steve Ingram from Staffordshire West Midlands, England, who is excited to get Tony Manzoni's video of the Lost Fundamental. How would you like to receive all 3 of our gifts, including a glove and glove storage compartment from Red Rooster Golf, a box of Flight Path golf tees, and Tony Manzoni's video of the Lost Fundamental? Just write an honest review and send me what you wrote and where you posted it. Once we confirm that your review is public, I'll email you information on how to receive your gifts. Or if you'd like, you can introduce an upcoming episode and tell all your playing partners that you were on your favorite golf podcast. When I started this show back in 2005, iTunes was just starting to play podcasts, and they were the leader for a long time. Remember the iPod before the iPhone? Well, a lot of people believe the word podcast came from getting them on an iPod. But today, in 2024, there are many more resources to get your favorite podcast. Spotify is putting pressure on Apple as the main source of podcast discovery. So please do me this favor, and I'll send you some free gifts. If you're a regular user of Spotify, follow us, write a review, and explain to others looking for golf content why you're a fan of Golf Smarter, the longest-running game improvement golf podcast. And as always, thank you so much for your continued support. If you have any questions, comments, want to open a future episode with where you're from, where you play, and the episode number, you've submitted a review on your favorite podcast platform, or maybe you have a suggestion for an upcoming episode, I respond to all emails as quickly as I can. Please write to golfsmarterpodcast@gmail.com or click on the Hey Fred button when you visit golfsmarter.com.